Okay, so good morning, everyone. My name is Aaron Slater. I am Digital Participation Manager at SCVO, and I'm really pleased to be able to welcome you along to the first in our series of thematic webinars as part of Connecting Scotland. Part of the reason for us putting this together is just an acknowledgement that the initial 2-hour training that everyone gets through Connecting Scotland won't give you all the skills and tools that you need to deliver support to the diversity of the communities that we all serve. So what we want to do is kind of build on that and build out some topical sessions. So we're starting off in August with online safety and accessibility as two of kind of the key themes that we want to draw out. And beyond that, it's really over to you. So what we've done is put together a survey, and we're really keen to find out direct from digital champions what else you need from the programme, what other support, what areas you'd like us to cover. And we'll put together further webinars and sessions on those. So what I'll do once we get started is I'll pop the link to that survey into the chat pane, and you'll have seen it in the e-bulletin as well if you've signed up for the Digital Champions e-bulletin. So today, really pleased to be joined by Rob from Get Safe Online. Rob's an online fraud specialist and cyber protect advisor, and today he's going to be covering password safety, device updates and backups. So we know that online safety is a big concern, not just for new learners, but also for digital champions. We want to make sure that they're keeping people safe when they go online for the first time. So I'm just going to hand straight over to Rob. I will stop sharing my screen. And Rob, over to you.
Morning, everybody. Welcome to this session. I'm really interested to be able to present to you and put forward really some key learning that I've picked up over my sort of 30 years experience in the police. So this session will cover a number of things. There'll be a slideshow that I'll talk through, and there's questions we'll field at the end. Make a note of the slide number as we go through, and then we can put some context to that particular question and that particular topic. So without further ado, I'll get the technology underway and share my screen so that we can go through the slideshow. So just bear with me 1 second. So this is what we're going to be covering today. Passwords, updates and backup. Now, a really key thing for me here is protecting what matters. Through my experience, the amount of victims that I have seen who have said, if only, or I wish I had, prior to becoming a victim of crime, it's quite clear how many times that's the case, and really people should be proactive in protecting themselves online. So what we'll go through today is a number of things. So I'll give a brief introduction as to who I am, where I'm from, what my background is, and why I'm here talking to you today about these particular topics. We'll go through the current digital landscape, and I'll just show you really what the reach and extent of the internet is, and how many users are connected, and why really it's an absolute playground for criminals to take advantage of people. Another element is understanding the jargon. There are so many words involved in this particular field, many of which can baffle people, but really they do what they say on the tin. But we'll go through a number of them, and I'll cover, hopefully, throughout the 4 sessions that we're going to be doing, quite a few of that, so that you do have an understanding of those terms and phrases that perhaps pop up in the news or pop up in conversation. So then we'll get round to actually the detail of things. Passwords can be seen as a bane of everyone's lives, but we need them. So we'll talk about why we need them and why they need to be strong. Device updates. Well, there are so many devices that we've got access to now. It's really important that we keep them updated. And we'll go through why we need to keep them updated, how we keep them updated, and what really the point of all that is. And I'll show a few videos which hopefully will explain in simple terms, rather than listening to my dulcet tones for an hour. Hopefully you'll be able to then get a bit more of an understanding of what the device updates are about. Data storage, well, we've got so much data, music, videos, photos, all of us are just creating so much content now. Storing that is absolutely vital. So from then the last bit would be our Q&A session. So going through what we talked about and answering some questions. And if I don't have the answer, then I'll go away, find out, and make sure that that gets back to you and to the group. So who am I? What have I done and why am I here? So my name's Rob Harvman, and I worked in the Midlands for 32 years in law enforcement, with 25 years in criminal investigations. So that was covering from robberies to burglaries, car crime, moving through to serious crime, armed robberies, murders, serious sexual offences. And before moving then into the sort of financial field. Now, for me, I actually thought that white collar crime didn't really matter. The banks had got it all covered, and well, that was it. It's down to them to protect themselves. But quite clearly, in the last 10 years, the banks have secured themselves a lot better, but people are still being subject to fraud and exploitation. So I was involved in investigating serious and complex frauds, financial investigation, recovery of assets from criminals, and also a team in dealing with cyber offences and online offences. So when I finished the police in January, I thought, well, rather than put all that knowledge and expertise in the bin, I'll hopefully make a bit more of a difference, and have got involved with Get Safe Online to make sure that the experiences and knowledge that I've acquired through my career can be passed on to people like yourselves, who can also pass those messages on to others. And like I say, it's absolutely vital that we help people understand what these threats are. Me, well, I'm a snowboarder. There's not much snow around at the moment, so that's been put on hold. I'm a guitarist and I play in the band, but there are no gigs, so that's been put on hold. So I go out mountain biking instead when I'm not doing this. So that's just a little bit about me. So our digital landscape then. Well, this is from January 2019. Another year has passed, but if we look at these numbers here, total population 7.6 to 8 billion people, and then look at these numbers of how much connection there is. So well over half of the population of the planet is connected on the internet. We have half all active on social media, and well over half using mobile devices. So it's can be seen as like I said, a real playground for criminals. They can remain anonymous, and they can apply their craft online and exploit people really to a great extent. I've seen victims lose up to £250,000 through a dating scam, and that is not unheard of. So there is a huge amount of exploitation out there and loss. So what happens with all those people in 1 minute on the internet? Well, there we have it. So that's 2020, what's happening in 1 minute. So 400,000 apps are downloaded. We've got 764,000 hours of Netflix being watched. $1.1 million being spent online. We've got 305 smart speakers purchased. Twitter, Tinder, online to enable them to get access to computers, to get access to data, and ultimately to commit criminal offences. So what's our current digital landscape? Well, we've got the Scottish Crime Survey 2018-2019 that said 1 in 5 are affected by online crime. Many are unaware of that, and a lot of it is underreported. Now, these are current things that have actually occurred during these last sort of six months. So these particular individuals' Twitter accounts got hacked. What happened there? The criminals posted that these individuals had invested in an online cryptocurrency and suggested that people should follow the link to invest themselves. Over £250,000, I think, was invested inverted commas, into a bogus cryptocurrency, and that was obviously then funds that were stolen from by criminals. Garmin had its data hacked. EasyJet had its data hacked. And when large data sets are hacked, that enables a criminal to socially engineer victims of crime later on down the line. And we'll talk about that in our next session, which will be covered next week on social engineering. COVID-19 has been exploited, and I'll cover a number of those threats at the end of the presentation. But it's quite clear that as soon as something so impactful appears, the criminals are very quick to exploit that opportunity. I've received some emails from PayPal, apparently, saying that my account's been blocked. Quite simply, don't follow the link. Went into my account to double check. Everything is absolutely fine. Email put into the scam folder. So this slide, I want you to ask yourself these questions and answer them honestly. So I'll just let you have a read of those first of all. So the first question, how much do I really know about online safety? Well, give yourself a benchmark. It's really quite important at this point, because you only know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. So in essence, if you think your online safety knowledge is an 8 out of 10, after this presentation, you might think, blimey, I didn't know half of that. Can you scale it down? Or you might think, well, I'm on a 2. And then after the presentation, you think, well, actually, I do know quite a bit more than I thought I did. So that's quite an important benchmark and one to scale yourself on as we go through the presentation. Do I use the same password for multiple accounts? If you do, don't. We'll talk about that in a moment. How often do I update my devices? When did I last do it? And do I know what to do? Really important, because a lot of people think that their devices will last forever. They've got the current protection. They don't need to do anything proactive about it. That's not the case, and we'll talk about why. How do I handle my personal data? Well, are you free with it? And when I say free, do you publish all sorts of information online, either willingly or maybe unwillingly, unknowingly? We're very free to share our experiences and share our knowledge and photos and information, but exactly how much do we share? I was on a train once, just as an example in the real world. I was on the train, I was sitting opposite a guy who'd been to a conference. On the table was his ID card from the conference. So I did a quick experiment, and I found out from that card, his mother's maiden name, his wife's registration number, and his pet's name, and also the variety of illnesses that their pet had. And when I spoke to him at the end, I just told him just to be careful about what he does with his personal information. Remember, protect what matters, because when it's gone, it's gone. And the vast majority of online crime, yes, can be avoided. It's all of our responsibilities. And this is from Skyfall. I can do more damage on my laptop before my first cup of Earl Grey than you can do in the field. And that's Q talking to Bond, and lo and behold, that's no spoilers. I'll keep my mouth shut there, but protect what matters. So here's some of the jargon that I talked about. We've got words here like botnet, whaling, spear phishing, macro, patching, cybersecurity, ransomware, whole host of different words and phrases. Now, obviously, when you come back, you can have another look at this to see what you know, and maybe ask yourself a few questions about what you don't know. But we will be covering two-factor authentication, antivirus, firewall, what a Trojan is, digital footprint. We talked a little bit about that already. The Internet of Things. What are we talking about there? What's the cloud? Well, we're just catching on all sorts of phrases now about sort of landscape. We've got sky, we've got the sun, and now we've got the cloud. We've also got streams involved as well. So we'll come back to some of those a bit later to see how we've got on. Now, this is in America. Could only be in America, I guess. But anyway, the simple question, what's your password? Talking about social engineering, we'll watch this person do a pretty good job of it.
We're talking about cybersecurity today and how safe people's passwords are. What is one of your online passwords currently?
It is my dog's name and the year I graduated from high school.
Oh, what kind of dog do you have?
I have a Chihuahua Papillon.
And what's its name?
Jameson.
Jameson. And where'd you go to school?
I went to school back in Greensburg, Pennsylvania.
What school?
Hempfield Area Senior High School.
Oh, when did you graduate?
In 2009.
Oh, great.
It's like my cat's name and then just like a random number.
Okay.
But,
Have you had this cat for a while?
yeah, she's my childhood pet.
Aw. And what's her name?
Her name is Jolie.
Jolie.
Mm-hmm.
So like a password of yours would be Jolie and then a number.
Yeah.
Like number 1?
Like my birthday,
Oh, when is your birthday?
June 12th,
Oh, nice. And what year were you born?
95.
Oh, great.
Mm-hmm.
So Jolie, 6, 12, 95.
Yes.
Got it.
So you mean to give my password right now? No, I cannot do that.
But we all want to know what it is so we can tell you if it's strong or not.
Oh my goodness. Let me think. Okay, one is Tel Aviv. Yeah. 468, and then Israel. It's only 3, but it's, you know, it's for me it's strong enough.
Ireland, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Gemma, 1, 2, 3. Spelled Gemma.
Well, most of them are Italian.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah,
Like
so
what? Like what's a good Italian password?
my grandma's name,
What's your grandma's name?
Maria.
Maria. So Maria is your password?
Oh yeah, now you know my password. Oh yeah.
So
We're talking about cybersecurity.
So there we have it. People quite blatantly not realizing what they're doing and are happy to share as much information as possible. So talking about passwords then, why do we need them? So simply they prove who we are. We've got access to a particular account and it's demonstrating who we are when we come up to that particular account. They prevent unauthorized access. Now, Computer Misuse Act, written a long time ago, 1990, I think it was. Now, the Computer Misuse Act identifies a couple of offences, one of which is an unauthorized access, and the other is interference with data or a system. So those are the two primary bits of legislation that cover this particular area. But passwords protect what matters, and they are literally the keys to your kingdom when it comes to online security. So take time to think about what your passwords are. So how do I protect them? How do I make sure that people don't, well, first of all, don't give them to an interviewer in the street. Secondly, make them strong. I'll talk about a brute force attack in a moment. Don't inadvertently reveal them. So that's people over your shoulder if you're working in an office environment. Some people are in a queue at the shops and they do all sorts of things and you don't know who's looking over your shoulder. So with our mobile devices, make sure that you are secure when you're filling in your password so you don't inadvertently reveal them. Don't share them, not even when asked to. There was a prime example. Simply asked the question, they gave the password up. But this is also important about in relationships or in sort of partnerships where you trust another party, and you think that you are giving your password to a trusted source or a trusted individual, and suddenly that relationship, well, doesn't quite work out. And that leaves you then in a real difficult position, and you better change the passwords sharpish. I've known accounts get hacked, both in personal relationships and in business relationships, when people have got access to passwords of other people who they thought they were in a trusted relationship with. And that has caused a whole host of problems and difficulties down the line. So don't share them, even though you might think that it's right to do so. Like we talked about, don't use the same one on multiple accounts. If you use that password on one account and you use it on another, if your details are hacked in whatever format, whether that's from a data breach from a larger company, the criminals will then use it in an effort to gain access to others. So this brings me to brute force attack. What is a brute force attack? That is simply where a criminal guesses what the passwords are. Now, the criminal themselves aren't just sat there typing them in. There are algorithms to do it for them. So they will create multiple simple passwords and keep pushing them and forcing them onto different accounts to see if they get in. If the password's weak, the brute force attack will work. Store them securely. We'll come on to that in a moment. Don't use default passwords on IoT devices. So we saw the phrase IoT, so that's the Internet of Things. So what is that about, and what does the default password relevance come into it? So here we are. This is a network in a house. We've got watches connected, we've got tablets connected, we've got phones connected, laptops, of course we have. We've got our Wi-Fi connected, our smart speaker connected, temperature, we've got cloud storage, we've got our water system perhaps, we've got our lighting, we've got the washing machine. So I can set my washing machine on my phone, I've got my cooker, and I've got my fridge, CCTV, a whole host of things are all connected onto the internet here. Now these products you might think are, well, it doesn't matter about me changing my passwords on that, it's not really relevant, doesn't make any difference, so I won't bother. Quite clearly, yeah, if someone wants to hack my fridge and buy me a load of Coors Light and get a delivery, be my guest. But that's unlikely to happen. What is likely to happen is I don't change my default password for my fridge, and the criminal is able to use brute force technology to enable them to guess the password to my fridge. Now, they're not going to order anything for me, but what they will do is use my fridge in a potential cyber attack later down the line. So, what makes a weak password? Well, we've had an example of that. Gemma123 on there, Jennifer123 here. Don't use your actual name. Don't use family birth dates, pets' names, favorite team names. If you put a lot of information on social media, it doesn't take a lot to work out some of these things, and you can quickly brute force a password. So what makes a strong one? You might think, blimey, I'm not going to have to write that down every time, or I'm not going to have to remember all of them for all of my accounts. Well, like I said, protect what matters. 3 random words, uppercase, lowercase, numbers, symbols, at least 15 characters. That is the strong password. Where possible, use 2-factor authentication. Now that's an added security measure, and that enables a separate device to be connected that alerts you to the login of a particular account and allows you to allow access through that separate device. So that's really quite a useful tool, and I would really recommend using it because it really does, one, save a lot of time in terms of the password and filling in and completing that process. The two-factor authentication is quicker and is as secure. It is really good. So I would advise using 2FA when you hear that phrase. That's what it means. So that covers our passwords. But what do we do with them when we got this list? Now, a lot of people say, well, you can't write them all down. Well, actually, you can, but you've got to be careful about it. You can encrypt them, make them more personal to you so that it's only you will understand the list if it's found. Secure them, store them securely. Don't keep them on your phone. If you lose your phone, well, there's the keys to your kingdom gone. So make sure that if you write them down, you store them securely. And to be honest, having dealt with burglaries, no one has broken into a house to steal people's passwords. They will break into a house for a whole host of things, but I've never known anyone break into a house and steal a book that's secreted in a drawer that's got encrypted passwords on it. They're far more likely to operate online and try and get them in that way. However, there is a caveat to that quite clearly. Don't share them and don't tell other people where your password list is, and make sure that it is secure. That's most important. We've already talked about sort of relationship breaches and breaches of trust, so that's important there. So the other angle is to use an online password manager. This is really good, but make a purchase. Don't go with freebies that are unsolicited messages, for instance. We've seen a number of instances where a pop-up would come on to say, here, this is a great password manager. Oh, I'm having trouble with that. You click on the link and inadvertently you've let a cyber criminal into your computer. Have a look yourself, make the checks, have a look at reviews, and have a look at recommendations. And make sure you go to trusted sources for a password manager. They're the keys to the kingdom, like I said, so make sure that they're looked after. Now, your email account, well, that can access many accounts, can't it? So losing control of that account is an absolute nightmare. So protect it. Use your strongest password on that one, and make sure that that is securely protected. So those are my tips. On our website, getsafeonline.org, there is a whole host of information about passwords and how to protect yourself, and goes into a lot of detail, and it's a really informative site. So I really encourage you to have a look at that and take some tips from that. So, next step, device updates. Why are they important? What do they do? Well, I'll just give you a bit of a talk about that. So our software systems and our devices have got technology in them that requires these updates. They're scanning for threats all the time, and new threats come online. Now, as soon as a new threat is identified, then that creates a hole in your system. The patch blocks that hole, so it prevents malicious software from accessing the system. It also keeps it efficient and effective. It runs smoother, and all of the niggles and the bugs and the glitches that are within the technology are actually removed. And it also maintains a secure device. If you don't do a patch update, then you're leaving yourself wide open. So, like I've said, Passwords are your keys to the front door. But if you're leaving the front door open in any event because you're not patching up the software, then all of your work can be undone. So it's really important. It sounds like a chore. It probably is a chore. But when you haven't done it and you can't access your computer data, you really probably will wish that you had done so. So then what requires updating? Well, we've all got phones, computers, laptops, but it's also what's on those devices. So we've got our operating systems. So my computer's on Microsoft Windows. I've got an iPad, so that'll be the iOS system. I've got an Android phone, so I'll need to be updating those operating systems on all three of those devices. Each device has got its own software. Some comes with the device, some you put on yourself. Again, keep them updated. Office, Media Player, Adobe, there are thousands, I appreciate that. Certainly, looking at the iPad, that tells me when updates are available. And you can go into those, and I'll talk about when we do the updates in a moment. And then the applications that you put on your devices, printers, security software, and then iTunes, Spotify, well, the list is endless. But just take some time out to do it because it's really important. They'll work better and you'll be better protected. And let me just, okay, just working out where I am.
Viruses, worms, Trojans, and bots are all part of a class of software called malware. The overwhelming majority of malware is created to make money illegally, often by stealing sensitive and confidential information from victims' computers and mobile devices. Malware can also be used for cyber vandalism, cyber espionage, hacktivism, cyber warfare, and various other reasons. Malware can make entry onto your computer via questionable file downloads, visiting infected websites, or through email containing a seemingly benign link or attachment. Common types of malware. Viruses. Almost all viruses are attached to an executable file, which means the virus may exist on a system but will not spread until a user opens the infected program. Viruses often originate on the internet and spread when downloading a file infected with a virus, peer-to-peer file sharing, or email attachment. Trojan. A Trojan is a harmful piece of software that looks legitimate. Users are typically tricked into leading and executing it on their systems. Trojans can not only steal your sensitive data, they can also give cyber crooks access to your system. Trojans are employed to gain access to your computer's financial and personal information. Ransomware. Ransomware holds your PC hostage and demands money. It locks up your computer, threatening to destroy data, demanding ransom or a payment for release of your data, files, or to regain the ability to use your computer again. Spyware. Spyware secretly gathers private information about the user activity, such as internet usage, and logs keystrokes via the process of keylogging to steal passwords and other sensitive data. Worms. Worms can replicate themselves and infect multiple computers on a network, causing major damage. Network worms often use computer networks to spread, slowing down traffic and relying on security failures such as outdated operating systems and no antivirus programs installed. In contrast, viruses require the spreading of an infected host file. Worms are a standalone software and do not require a host or human help to spread. The best way to protect your system from malware is to keep your operating system clean by downloading regular patches, updates, and making sure that your computer is protected by the latest antivirus software from a trusted vendor.
So within that, before we just go through these, so we just pause here. Bots, so we talked about Trojans, so that's, like I mentioned, a pop-up where You then click on the link and that takes you in. So there are the viruses that are enabled by humans clicking on a file, and then there are worms which actually work their way through a system that isn't protected properly. So this is why doing device updates is important. This is about the technical element of protecting your computer. So automatic notifications, they come on. Do you want to update? You can do that as soon as possible. Schedule an update. So it might say, what time do you want the update? 2 in the morning? Yep, by all means. I'm fast asleep, crack on. But do be proactive. Go to your settings, check your device. Go into your settings, have a look at device care, have a look at device maintenance, and make sure that you're up to date. Appreciate that security can come in many forms, but you do get what you pay for. Again, check reviews, check recommendations, so that you can understand what you're actually getting for your money. Don't click on to get a free software protection download, because one, it might be infected, and it might even be a paid one. So don't click on the unsolicited links. Go and do your research yourself. Be proactive though. Switch on your protections. If you're paying for all of these or one of these, make sure you're using it properly. Switch them on. Double check that you've got your firewalls on, because it will stop those viruses, it will stop those worms and those Trojans. Only install improved software. That's what I've been talking about. And keep your browser updated as well. So your browser is how you interact with the internet, and your browser is, for instance, Internet Explorer or Internet Edge, I think it is now. And then we've got Google Chrome. We've got a multitude of others that are out there. But all of these browsers, you need to update so you've got your protections there. So data storage. Well, this is why you back up your data, because if you don't, you'll lose it. Remember this phrase, protecting what matters. You lock your doors, you lock your windows, you check they're all shut and closed when you leave your house. Make sure that your data, photos, videos, music, they are backed up. If you have a device failure, if suddenly something's been infected and you've got catastrophic malware in there from a worm that's come in and you weren't updated, and it shuts all your system down, you're not going to get it back. Then we've got the physical threats: fire, flood, accidental damage. Again, lost forever. If someone actually steals your phone or steals your laptop, where is all your information? And you might actually do it by mistake, which is an absolute nightmare, isn't it? But it's certainly possible. So backing up your data is absolutely paramount. And there are a number of ways that you can do that, that we'll go on to now. So identify what you need to back up. What's most important? If you lost it today, you'd be devastated. So think about what that actually is. A friend of mine, his backup was full, or his online storage was full, one of these facilities. He didn't bother updating it a little bit. It gave him his free amount, but he didn't back up everything else on his phone, and he lost all his photos of his granddaughter and the videos they'd made, and he was devastated. Portable hard drives. So portable hard drives are available and are separate from your computer. Don't store them in the same place as your computer, because that kind of defeats the object, doesn't it? Store them in a separate place. It might be, and some might be stored somewhere else. But ultimately, a portable hard drive allows large amounts of data. So this is talking about terabytes, so 1,000 gig. So my iPad, bought it a few years ago. It's got 16 gig and it's nearly full. So I backed up that. Avoid using USB or CDs as data storage. One, they can be easily lost. Two, there's limited capacity on them themselves. And three, to be honest, it takes a long time to sort of download a lot of data onto those sort of methods. We've now moved to online storage. So this is where the cloud comes in. That's what online storage is actually talking about. So we've got certain numbers of opportunities in order to do that. iCloud, OneDrive, Microsoft, Dropbox. All of these provide an opportunity for you to put your data securely offline. Backup regularly. Again, oh, I'm busy this, I'm too busy that. Well, make sure that you do it, because if you lose it, then it's gone forever. So just coming back to when we got to this first slide and we talked about, or what we were likely to look at. So ransomware, mentioned that in that video. Trojan was mentioned in the video. We've seen a bit of social engineering, but I'll talk about that in the next session. Two-factor authentication. We talked about what cybersecurity is, the cloud, patching, firewalls. So there's a lot that we've talked about today, and I'll hopefully be able to answer some of your questions in a moment on that. I just wanted to cover some COVID-19 threats, and these are what are out there at the minute, and you've got to keep your eyes peeled and make sure that you don't fall for them. Fake government emails. We've seen this offering grants, and again, the emails containing malware, malicious software that infect your computer to steal personal information. We've got emails offering relief funds, encouraging people to fill in their personal information. This is called harvesting. Criminals are absolutely adept at getting personal information, which they can then sell or alternatively use to their own devices. Council tax reduction emails, government branding, looks official. Everyone could do with a bit more cash, so it's all attempt to draw you in and click on a link. Fake offers to help apply for universal credit, and they take an advance payment for these services. This is really exploiting the vulnerable here. People who are on universal credit, probably struggling financially, and the offer of help might really be something that they think would be beneficial to them. So really make sure that anyone who's getting involved or trying to get universal credit doesn't fall for this type of exploitation. We identified that Get Safe Online, that the NHS test and trace scams will be absolutely prevalent, and it turned out to be the case. So here is the phrase phishing. So these are emails sent to people to get them to bite onto the hook, and once they're hooked, then the criminal can get whatever detail they like. So it could lead to fake websites getting personal information, or putting malware onto a device. TV licensing, fake emails, the same sort of essence here about personal information. Online subscription services, getting people to give over their payment details. So those are some real threats that are currently out there. So I would really encourage everybody to go onto the website that Get Safe Online, have a look, take some time out to understand what your devices are, what your passwords are, what are weak, what are strong, what needs some maybe some work, and in the event of a crime occurring to you, then refer to Police Scotland. So I hope you found all that information useful, and my dulcet tones haven't bored you to tears. But I do hope that you found some of that information about passwords, device updates, and storage really useful. And please take time to visit that website. There is an awful lot on there that can help you and others protect themselves online. So my key point is protect what matters, because it probably really does. And if it's gone, then it's too late. So make sure that you keep yourself online safely. And our next session, we'll be talking about social engineering. What we've covered today has been how to protect your computers. So that's all very technical. Keeps the criminal out. Next time, I'll talk about how criminals socially engineer people, get into their heads to overcome those technical difficulties. And I'll talk about some personal experiences through my involvement in the police of seeing how criminals actually do that. So hopefully we can get some questions sorted, and hopefully I'll be able to answer them. And like I say, if I can't, I'll find out and I'll get back to you. So Aaron, over to you. Are we?
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Rob. That was really interesting. I think for me personally, probably quite a stark reminder of the importance of keeping our devices safe. So I'm definitely going to go and revisit my own settings, but also actually quite reassuring to know in that message of, you know, the tools are all there and it's down to us and we can do things to keep ourselves safer. I think probably one of my reflections is thinking from the perspective of a digital champion, which everyone here will be digital champions, and how we support our end learners with their new devices. And definitely that around password safety will be one of the first tasks that we as digital champions will undertake with our new learners, is to set up their devices. And just those really important messages around being guarded with your own personal information and how you share that. So I'm going to be really interested in your social engineering session, but just that the importance of creating that password and that balance of making it strong, but also making it a password that someone's going to be able to remember as well, especially if they're not used to the concept of passwords. And I think my key takeaway is just seeing, as you said, the keys to the kingdom, seeing your password as, you know, translate that to the keys to your house essentially, and how important it is to keep them safe. So if anyone, we don't have any specific questions in the chat panel, but if anyone would like to ask a question to Rob, you can use the thumbs up reaction emoji on the bottom navigation bar of your window. If you want to just give a thumbs up if you've got a question, and I will just skim through to see if anyone does.
Jamie Nicol, I think, has.
Yeah. Hi, Rob. It was just a query on slide 21 when you're talking about backup. And I think you said you had portable drives, and then beside that you said don't use USB. Presumably you're talking there not a USB connected external drive. You're talking about a memory stick or a data.
Yeah. So the USB is the memory stick element. So the actual device itself is a portable storage device. Larger, it's got a plug, and it connects through the USB cable.
Yeah.
But yes, it's when I talked about USB, I meant a USB stick. So that's right there. So yeah, you're right to flag that up. The sticks are good. But I wouldn't back up all of your data on there. Their capacity is limited, and they're easily lost as well by their sheer size. And someone else could find it and plug it in. And that, on that note, just about data protection, device protection. If you find a USB stick somewhere, don't plug it in. Okay. The desire and curiosity to do so is probably overwhelming, but we've had cases where USB sticks have been left outside businesses. A user has picked it up, gone inside, put the stick into their computer and thought, oh, I'll have a look on what's this. And before you know it, they've infected the whole system. So only plug in trusted USBs. So thanks for your clarification on that, Jamie.
Yeah, can I just ask you another one yourself or anyone else that's listening in, how they dampen down people's fears? We quite often get people come into our drop-ins and, you know, you're encouraging them to go online. Oh, no, 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 I wouldn't do that. I'm not going online because I've read about all these hackers and scammers and things like that. And sometimes I've done it, oh, well, but you could get mugged in the street. And then that puts another fear into them that they're not going to go out and get mugged in the street. Whereas, you know, there's so much in the newspapers and everything about all these scams, and it's quite difficult to convince people that it's not as dangerous as it sounds if they follow your advice there. I was just wondering if anyone has a phrase or something that they use to calm people's fears over that.
I think you're right, Jamie, and what we want to do is make people have an enjoyable but safe interaction online. And I think that's kind of a phrase that we use. And certainly when we're talking about online activity, I think whilst there's all these threats out there that we need to be mindful of, well, threats exist, like you said, in the world, and we could all stay at home is the answer to that, and stay offline. But we're obviously far more sociable than that. And quite clearly what's been seen through the COVID sort of lockdown is that it's enabled people to interact far better or even more than they did so before. And I think from my point of view, a simple message to say you can be safe and you can have a really good, enjoyable experience online, because it can make your life easier and better. So I think that was sort of the takeaway that I would advise on that one, really, just to encourage them to say, yeah, you've just got to be a little bit safer, but the rewards outweigh those sort of pitfalls, I guess.
Thanks for that, Rob. Do you have any other questions?
Hi, could I say something?
Absolutely, go for it, Kathleen.
Okay, I was saying our experience that many people are quite happy to do the entertainment side of things, like looking for things on the internet or doing some music or learning how to email and take photos and share them, things like that. I would say we get more reticence where people are looking to go online to shop, where they're sharing their bank details. That's the kind of reticence we get. But in my experience, again, even personal experience, if there's anything that you have purchased or spent an unusual amount of money from your account, the bank will very often check that with you and double check that that's actually you that's done that. And there was one time way back many years ago that it wasn't me, and the bank did they gave me the money back.
Yes, Kathleen, you're right there. Filling in your bank account details or filling in your credit card details can fill people with a sense of dread that once they've filled it in, then it's there forever, and that's that. I think some important points on that will be covered in later sessions. I'll be doing a piece on online shopping, but I think an important element of that is to make sure that these are all through your own sort of research or through your secure contacts online, and looking out for key symbols. So I do agree that as soon as you start to enter into a world of financial interactions, your protection levels need to perhaps be a little bit higher, but there are simple ways to stay safe, and the banks are doing a lot more work than they've ever done before. Two-factor authentication is another great way to make sure that, you know, if you have created or a transaction online, that you're then notified on your phone to say that that's occurred. If it wasn't you, then you can tell them it wasn't you, and if it was you, then it goes ahead accordingly. So a good point, Kathleen, and you're right to bring that up, and hopefully I'll cover that in another session in a couple of weeks.
Thanks.
Brilliant. Thanks, Rob. Any final questions? We've got about a minute left. Don't think we have. Brilliant.
I would just like to say thanks very much, Rob. That was amazing. It was
You're welcome.
Really well covered and not too scary. You didn't go into too much depth for us non-specialists, so that was pitched just right. So thanks for that.
You're very welcome. Thanks for the feedback, reassuring.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Kathleen. Yeah, just to echo Kathleen, thank you so much, Rob, for joining us today and sharing your expertise. And we look forward to the next one next Tuesday at the same time, when we're going to cover social engineering. And you can sign up the same way we've just signed up for today. So that brings us to an end. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for joining in.